Welcome back to the Blue Collar Future Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Robison. Today we've got an episode about intentionality, which we talk about a lot on this podcast, and kind of leadership and intentionality. And I know Jesse made a post this week about it and leading and being a good lead on the job site. I think it is a good time for this episode. I'm sure we'll end up talking about something along those lines in another episode. But I've got a lot on my mind, stuff I've been thinking about and then listening to from other podcasts surrounding intentionality and leadership. One thing I wanted to mention before I get into it was I was on another podcast, and I know I mentioned it last week, but I was on another podcast about 2 weeks ago, the Construction Mentor podcast with Ryan Eisenhower. Go check that out anywhere podcasts can be listened to. It was an awesome episode. I don't get the opportunity to share my story from different angles very often because I'm not often being the one interviewed. I think I've been on about 3 or 4 or 5 podcasts other than my own with another couple people that want me to go on theirs. But it was a really cool conversation that we had, and Ryan's a really cool guy. Go check that episode out. And his podcast has been around about as long as this one, and he's doing awesome things. So go check that one out anywhere podcasts can be listened to. Today, I figured I would weave some quotes in that I've heard that have really impacted me, and a lot of them are going to be coming from John Maxwell, and specifically a podcast that he was on called Front Row Seat, and that is a Ramsey Network podcast. As a lot of people know on here, or at least I've mentioned, I've been listening to a lot of Dave Ramsey stuff, and a lot of people have very strong opinions about Dave Ramsey, but the more I listen, the more I realize how beneficial his perspective is and how aligned I am with his perspective. And the older I get, the less subservient I want to be to people, being in debt to people and being in debt in general. And what he really teaches is just being at peace, living in peace, solving for peace in your financials and your relationships, all the above. And that really solves a problem nowadays that people have. So I've been on this Ramsey kick and listening to a Ramsey Network podcast, Front Row Seat with Ken Coleman, I think is the one who hosts that. He had John Maxwell on, and not too long ago he had Jimmy John on, the guy who started the business, the $1 billion, sandwich sub business, Jimmy John's, and both episodes were pretty good. Those are the only two I've listened to, but this John Maxwell one really struck a chord with me. And actually, it's funny how things will come to me in a time when I'm thinking about them currently, and that seems to be the case with anytime I'm listening to a podcast and it's with a guest that I haven't really listened to before. It seems to be the theme of the podcast really just sums up or adds to or whatever the lived experience that I have of the week that I listen to it and take it in, and things that are going around at the same time. It really seems to be divine intervention in some ways. And I've always felt that way about a lot of things, that a lot of things kind of line up around the same time. And I think it's a lot where when you focus on one topic and you start thinking and going down this rabbit hole for days, you notice things that are related to that and then make the connections. I'm sure that's all it is, but it seems even stronger than that. And this is what this episode for me was this episode of John Maxwell, and it goes along with a lot of stuff I've been thinking about lately. First quote that I will mention is, don't put things off that are best done today or can be done today. And I've heard this quote a lot, repeated different ways, different ways that it's said, different, obviously, language that go to try to make it different. Essentially, don't put off things best done today or that you can do today. That is the essence of procrastination, and that is the essence of what drives a lot of people crazy nowadays. So imagine you're putting off every single thing possible that you could do today, that you have the time to do today because you need to rest or you want to rest or whatever it is. But all that does is set you up to live in chaos with all of these things looming over top of you. So, dishes going undone for days on end, your laundry not being done for days on end, You need to get back to your tax guy to do your taxes. And it's nothing serious, but you need to compile a few documents and send them over or drop them off. And they're right in your desk. You just need to go through and find them. Or say you're playing a social media game and you need to make a few videos and you have the videos taken. You just need to go through and make a few quick edits and throw a caption together and post them, and you don't. All of this stuff adds up. And you can apply this to every single facet of your life. All of this stuff adds up. And eventually things start to come crashing down. And this is the key to living intentionally. Nobody is saying that you have to be this like machine of getting tasks done all day, every single day. Like that you can't ever just come home from work and sit down on the front porch for an hour or something and relax and take it all in. But that's what it takes, though. And if you're at that point where, say you get home from work and you decide to go sit on the front porch for an hour and think, and maybe at that point you are journaling or you're reading or whatever, you're just enjoying the sights. Most people don't do that. Most people get home from work and they essentially, get showered, cleaned up for the day. Maybe they eat some dinner and sit on the couch and scroll on their phone. Thing I've been doing lately is getting home and playing video games, and I do my best to not get sucked into that, because when I start to do something like that, just get sucked in, and during the week it just got other stuff to do. This idea of not putting things off that are best done today. Imagine what it would be like if every single thing that you put off, you just didn't do today because you couldn't do it tomorrow or whatever it is that you're trying to convince yourself. You got everything done and you were always on top of your stuff. Imagine how much more success you might have in your life. And it could be all simple stuff. It could be super simple things that don't even have explicit timelines. But what happens is when you complete one task, you want to complete another, and your capacity for getting things done increases, and you become a more valuable person, getting things done before they need to be done or whatever. But also what happens if you are putting things off constantly is everything comes due at the same time. People run into this when they're in school, and you think that you'd get out of this habit when you're in high school or whatever, when you're putting all your assignments off, and then all of a sudden you have to do 10 assignments and study for 3 different tests, over a weekend or something. But a lot of people think that that's the best way to go. Don't put things off that are best done today. And this is something that I always have a hard time with. Even lately I've been knowing that I need to shred a bunch of paper. And there's been a bunch of paper like in my desk, documents and checks and stuff that I've deposited online, things that probably should be shredded and not just thrown away. They've just been sitting on my desk for months now and been putting it off and don't really need to do it at all. But having it clear and having a clear conscience and peace of mind that knowing that it's done, it's out of the way, and I don't have to look at it anymore is so great now that it has me wondering why I've never done it before. Because how hard is it to just go sit down and shred paper for 30 minutes or something, every once in a while. It's that type of stuff that we put off that adds up. And then when it comes down to important things, they also get put off because everything else is getting put off. So why not? I think John Maxwell said that he has a book called Today Matters. And the premise of the book, or the premise of this idea that today matters, is we overestimate what we can do tomorrow, i.e. putting things off. Over exaggerate what we did yesterday, i.e. pretend we got more done than we did to make ourselves feel better that we put things off. And then we underestimate what we can do today. So the way I'm looking at this is anytime I'm in a decision-making process and I end up deciding, that can wait. I don't have time anyways, or I got enough done yesterday. And almost all of those things happen around the same time. And it's in the evening and I've got an extra hour and I just decide to waste it scrolling on my phone or watching TV or playing a game or whatever it is. All of those frameworks happen around the same time where I am thinking to myself, I got enough done yesterday. I can just take it easy today. And I can do it tomorrow. I got plenty of time tomorrow. And I don't even really have enough time to do it this evening because, XYZ, whatever. Or if you can change those frameworks to today matters, and don't put things off that are best done today. And we do have a lot more time than what we think we have. So if we can get it to where we overestimate what we can do today, I mean, that would even be better than underestimating. But, we're living in these extremes of exaggerating what we did previous, in the last few days, and overestimating what we can do in the next few days, and underestimating what we can do in the moment. That is this idea of not being intentional with your life. If you can have intentionality in what you do and be realistic with what you did the day before, be realistic with how much time you have, and actually be intentional and use the time that you have to get things done in the moment, and realize how much time you have in the coming days and weeks to do things. These little changes are these 1-degree shifts that can completely alter the course of your life. So today matters. Make your day count. Be intentional. Begin with the end in mind is another quote that I've heard, and goes right along again with this intentionality idea. And I would extend this begin with the end in mind to this is planning what you need to do and what you want to do and where you want to be, and getting real with yourself about what you can do today and what you can do tomorrow and what you did the previous day. And this is where I would say that our recent partner Jobber really helps, where you can really take control of your schedule and quick and easy invoices to people. You can finish up a project that you've had on your schedule and all of your guys know and can keep track of and upload pictures to and all of that. As soon as you can finish your job up, you can send out that invoice. You can click job complete and it will automatically send the invoice over to the customer, and the employees can track their times on there. And this is all about being intentional and taking control of your schedule and beginning with the end in mind. Quick shout out to Jobber. They've been awesome to work with. And if you want to test out Jobber for yourself, click the link in the show notes and the link in my bio on Instagram. Anywhere where you're listening, there should be show notes or on social media. Back to John Maxwell and Today Matters. I'm going to take a different shift and talk about, to kind of close this out, we discussed overestimating what we can do tomorrow, over exaggerating what we did the day before, and underestimating what we can do today. Being intentional is paramount if you want to be performing in your job. I know there are days where I come to work and it seems like I can never stay on task, and it seems like just kind of going with the flow. And we have a good system and a good crew, so that works sometimes and it's fine. But the less intentional I'm being, the worse, I don't want to say the worse the day ends up being, but the worse I can tell that I perform. If I can begin my day with the end in mind, like I said, and kind of map out in my mind what's going to happen, think about what needs to happen throughout the day, how I'd like it to turn out, any potential situations that could come up. That always helps me to kind of be intentional on the job with what I'm doing in order to maximize the time that we have in the day to get the most done. And being able to do that day in, day out is really what makes people successful and sets people apart. The next quote that I heard that I'll kind of finish this out with is, "You're only great if you're great today. Yesterday is over." So this was taken from this idea that, a company, we'll say, is inherently great because they have been great. And John Maxwell argued that you are only great if you are great in the moment. And this was talking about cultures and leadership and stuff. But it ties along with intentionality as well. If you are not being super intentional about what you're doing and being intentional about being great today, right now, then it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. You're not great right now. Yesterday's over. We can't get yesterday back. You can't, over exaggerate what happened yesterday. And it really doesn't matter in the present moment. Do not over exaggerate what you did yesterday and underestimate what we can do today. Make today count, and you're only great if you're great today. There's a lot to process here, that I think I could spend a lot of episodes on. I wanted this to kind of be short and sweet, to kind of have key points that I've taken from the last couple weeks even, but especially the last couple days. And since I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, being intentional is more than just a buzzword. Like this is something that's thrown around a lot and we even talk about it a ton, but when you start being intentional and taking control of your life, taking control of your finances, taking control of your production at work, of your family life, of your home life, doing dishes, doing your laundry, cleaning, being intentional about the way that you live and showing up consistently day in, day out. This is how people make it to where they want to be. When you begin with the end in mind, when you decide where you want to go, it's really easy to figure out how to get there, and being intentional every day is how you get there. So hope you took something from this today, and hope you followed this jumble that I've been trying to work through here. The thing I like about this podcast is I can kind of throw my thoughts and ideas out there, and honestly, the fact that they live out there forever is cool, that I can look back in 5, 10, 15 years and see what my thought process has been, for the time in my life that I've been in. And the time in my life that I'm in right now is working on being intentional, because I've noticed too many times and too many situations where I have let myself down in a way where I find myself scrolling for hours on end, not paying attention to what's going on around me, not appreciating the things that I have. And ultimately, recently, with the birth of our son, realizing that if I am not intentional about how we raise our son and how we interact with him and how we spend our time, and that will directly affect his life forever. And also, I won't ever get this time back. So this is the season and the time of my life that I'm in, and I'm always working on it. This is not me saying that perfect at any of this. These are all of my thoughts and all of the things that I myself am working on and thinking about. So hope you took something from this. If you did, share it with a friend who you think will get something out of it. Leave a rating and review. It really helps with the growth of the podcast. And we are getting to a point where we're thinking about taking on sponsors. So if you have ideas for show sponsors, or if you even want to sponsor the podcast yourself, reach out to me. Love to talk over options with you about it, and appreciate everybody listening, and we'll see you next time.